to LexLocal. I'm your host, Rick Dorrington. Well, spring is finally here. We hope you're all enjoying the warmer weather. In Lexington, those crocus popping and songbirds returning means it's time for the annual town meeting. This year, on night one, town meeting members were met with a protest of approximately 300 members of the Lexington Education Association. That union, including Lexington teachers, is working under a contract that expired in September. Union President, Avon Lewis, says members showed up on opening night of town meeting to point out to town meeting members that they want a new contract.
The point of the protest yesterday is one of the messages we're trying to get out to the community is we want people to understand that, yes, the town has money. The town has money to pay the teachers, to pay the administrative assistants, to staff the buildings the way they need to be staffed. The money is there. We're not going to bankrupt the town. We don't need an override. I mean, we literally have the money. And that's what we are trying to get out there. And so we are hoping that, the town meeting members will notice and will use this as a chance to think about this and ask real questions. Over the last several years, the district has consistently returned $1 million, $2 million, 1 year, $3 million back to the town. The town has dutifully taken that money and put it in one savings account or another. The biggest chunk of it goes into an account they call cash capital. And in the past, like before the current superintendent and town manager, that free cash, it's called, that was returned, that the schools return at the end of the year, that money used to come back to the schools the following year in the operating budget. And that's no longer true. So the net result is that the schools are being told, and the community in general are being told, we have no money, when in fact they have a lot of money and they are just choosing to put it in the savings account rather than investing it in the community and the services for the community right now.
Dr. Hackett says taking money out of some of those funds isn't that simple, and some of these funds are partially being reserved for the construction of a new high school in the future.
Are in the unique position of needing to factor in all kinds of needs and wants from different members of the community. So on the one hand, we hear what our teachers want and we want to get that for them. And then we go to the budget table and through the summits, and then we hear, okay, we have to be careful about how many new additional positions, because every time we add a new position, that's an $18,000 benefit. That is a hit on the municipal side. And then, of course, in every community, you have police and fire and other people who have needs and wants that go unmet as well. So our approach is to, of course, advocate for our teachers. That's our job. That's why we're in this business. But also to think about the needs of the entire community. The Capital Stabilization Fund becomes important because the way that it builds up is through a couple different sources. We put free cash into the account at the end of the year, so monies that are turned back to the town, which has been the structure that the town has used for many years, go into the Capital Stabilization Fund if 4 bodies determine that they should. And those 4 bodies are the Appropriation Committee, the Capital Expenditures Committee, Select Board, and School Committee. So we go through our summit process, and the town finance people put out numbers that they think, and we have debates and discussions about what should go where, but sometimes the free cash is diverted into the Capital Stabilization Fund, but that's just one piece of the puzzle, or one piece of why we have $20 million in that fund. The other piece is that they have a new strategy, relatively new, last couple of years, which determines that any new revenue stream that comes through new commercial growth in the town is diverted to the Capital Stabilization Fund for the purpose of offsetting costs of a new high school. So it's not a fund that I think people can tap. I understand the argument at one level, and the feeling that, okay, we could solve a lot of problems with $20 million, and yes, I would love to be able to have more access to more funding, and at the same time, I recognize that that's going to be important for taxpayers when we get to a new high school in 5 or 6 years. That will further defray those costs. So we really have to work in partnership with the town in that way.
Dr. Hackett also says one of the biggest challenges with the budget is that 60% of Lexington educators are already being paid at the highest bracket.
We have about 60% of our staff on step 12, which is the highest step in our salary schedule. And what that means is whatever increase is applied, or if different strategies are worked out with how we're going to perhaps add another step, I'm just speaking generally, it would need to apply to 60% of our teachers.
Lewis says Lexington educators has fallen behind some of the other comparable communities in terms of wages and benefits.
Lexington has a number of contractual communities that we compare ourselves to for compensation, and we have fallen pretty steadily over the last several years in terms of how we pay. We also, and then also similarly with benefits, there's a number of benefits that have changed. Like, for example, paid family leave is something that is becoming standard, and we would like to see that here. Fundamentally, many, teachers fundamentally are optimists. You have things don't go well one day and you come back in and try again. And that's what we are doing. And we're going to keep trying. But what I do know is the workload, the working conditions we have now are not going to sustain the staff that the district would like to have it. We're going to lose teachers, and if we can't get the workload and the compensation under control.
One of the exciting things that we're doing is we are partnering with the Lexington Educators Association on a legislative breakfast to educate the community about these issues. And by we, I mean I'm working with some people from the LEA along with school committee to sort of paint the national picture, hopefully, to talk about our own data, to take a look at what happens when other communities increase significantly, then our comparisons start to change, and there are definitely challenges that we have to tackle. I think the most important part of that legislative breakfast agenda is that the community needs to sort of know the challenges that we face, and my hope is that we go into the next budget cycle with a fresh set of eyes, with this information sort of in the background as we make decisions about what is affordable for an increase for schools. And I think for the next few years it's going to be tricky because we have to sort of settle a lot of longstanding issues that are happening nationally in public education as well as statewide.
Both Evan Lewis and Dr. Hackett agree Lexington's education system is built on legacy teachers who love working in Lexington. And Dr. Hackett is confident they'll reach an agreement soon. Another issue in front of the town meeting members is the state-imposed mandate for additional affordable housing. Planning Director Abby McCabe says the board is aware that some town residents are resistant to change current zoning laws to allow for more multi-use housing. According to McCabe, the Planning Board is not allowed to opt out of the state guidelines without consequences.
We have heard a lot of concerns from people not wanting to see Lexington change, not wanting the character to change, or not to have new housing be created. However, the Planning Board is proposing the zoning because it is required by state law, and it's been clear from the state that there will be consequences for noncompliance. But the reason the state has imposed this law on 175 communities is because we're in a housing crisis, and it's gotten to the absolute crisis point because people don't have a place to live. People need a place to live. Employers want to locate where their workers are, and they're having trouble keeping workers as well. If we don't comply, the Attorney General has put out a release last week that there could be litigation and civil action enforcement and some lawsuits that could be brought forward against the town.
McCabe also says once the new zoning laws are in place, it would likely be 2 to 4 years before any construction is done. Applicants will still have to submit plans and go through the approval process just like they do now.
When applications are submitted, the Planning Board can also review their design. So we require architectural plans to be submitted, and during that review, that's when the planning board would weigh in on the design and what buildings look like. Also, there's been a lot of concern over Lexington Center. The center is also in a historic district, so those applications would all require the Historic District Commission approval as well, and they have design guidelines. So if anyone was interested there, we would work closely with the Historic District Commission, and we'd want to get an applicant in with them as soon as possible so that they can make sure they got the Historic District Commission's early recommendations so that they know how to design their plans.
LexMedia reached out for comment to the Lexington Cluster Housing Study Group, who has been analyzing the Planning Committee recommendations, as well as other residents who have voiced some concern. But no one was comfortable talking to us on camera. We'll be right back with an update on the proposed expansion at Hanscom Airfield after this break. There's growing concern among Lexington residents over a proposed expansion at Hanscom Airfield. The proposal by Massport would add 27 additional hangars to Hanscom. We spoke to Chris Elliott, chair of HVAC, the Hanscom Airfield Advisory Commission, who gives us Massport's reasoning behind the expansion and some concerns he has for the proposed plan as it sits now.
It's part of the larger aviation system in Massachusetts and nationally. So Bedford Airport serves as a reliever to Logan Airport. The Logan Airport is too busy. They've had runway incursions because it's so busy. So Massport wants to move the general aviation and private jet and corporate jet travel to Hanscom Field. So that's their goal here. They're also believe that there are too many ferry flights. There are empty flights coming to Hanscom Field to pick up passengers because they can't get hangar space at Hanscom Field. And so they believe that expanding the hangar space will reduce operations here. We don't know how many ferry flights really exist. We don't know how much of these hangar space would be taken up to reduce ferry flights, or if it would just create more demand because it's a nicer airport to fly your private jet in and out of. So that fact really changes the overall consequences. If it reduces operations because of reducing ferry flights, that would be a net positive. If it makes it a more attractive airport and increases jet flights, those have been a terrible problem. So the jets take off from the main runway directly over Great Meadows National Wildlife. And they fly, it's also adjacent to Minuteman National Park, which was where the first battle of the American Revolution took place. So there's very significant historic sites in the airspace around Hanscom Field. The people that give presentations at Minuteman Park say that some of their presentations are interrupted by airplanes, air noise. So that's a million people a year visit that national park. And we don't want to see more disruption from more aircraft. If truly the aircraft would be reduced by the reducing ferry flights, that would be a net positive. But we don't know the facts. This is a huge expansion, and I don't think that the basic data of what the consequences of this expansion were put on the table before they started building plans.
We also spoke with State Senator Mike Barrett. He shares some of his concerns, but also sees this as an opportunity for Massachusetts to be one of the leaders in expanding green aviation.
We've got a proposal here for 27 additional hangars, houses, if you will, garages for privately owned jets. So this would be a private business operating on the Hanscom civilian air strip. Why is it destabilizing? Well, first of all, you've got about 270 landings and takeoffs every day out of Hanscom Civilian Airport right now. This could add as many as 190 additional. So you're talking about major traffic impacts and major noise impacts for Lexington, because the planes land over our part of town, Lexington. That would be the northern and western part of the town. So that's a significant addition. But consider the climate impacts. You've got private jets are probably the single most destructive form of transportation currently used by humankind. They only take on average about 4 passengers per private jet. I do want to mention that the developers are insisting, without having presented any numbers so far, that this will be green enough. And what they're saying is that there's some jet travel currently happening at the airport that involves jets leaving the airport because the hangars don't exist there now after depositing passengers. So a jet, in theory, comes in, lets off some business travelers, and then the jet goes away empty and parks somewhere else. These so-called ferry flights, empty flights, would be eliminated, so goes the argument, if the jets could simply park themselves at Hanscom and wait until the end of the business day and fly people out. But you know, this is in theory only, because the developers coyly, cleverly made the argument but presented no data. They didn't present any data as to where the current drop-offs are happening at Hanscom. They didn't tell us where the jets go to sit out the day until they return at night. And they didn't make the distinction critical in this case between business travel and recreational travel. Well, we have a number of us are proposing an alternative to the developers and to Massport. We don't want to force private jet travel back to Logan because there is an environmental justice issue here. East Boston and Chelsea have absorbed a lot of environmental harm over the years due to increased traffic at Logan. So the idea isn't to be suburban and exclusionary here and to force the jets back into Boston. What we want instead is for the jets to stay here but be green. So Massport really needs to make good on its protestations of caring about the climate by helping us really pioneer here. And in so doing, we avoid pushing unwanted traffic back to Boston, but at the same time, we make it clean and green.
Massport declined our invitation for an interview, but sent us this statement. This project is in the very early stages. The developer's environmental review process recently started, and there will be ample opportunities for the community to participate. Plenty of student news to catch you up on. We'll be right back after this. Congratulations go out to the Clark Middle School science teams. The Science Bowl and the Science Olympiad have each won regional competitions and will compete in the national final this spring. For the first time since 2020, they will compete in person instead of over Zoom in the nationals.
I have a great sense of pride about both these teams, and I know that they've had some long-standing success. So this year is not the first year. It just happens that both teams are making the nationals this year.
Clark Middle School is amazingly sending both its science teams to nationals this year. Whether it be the Science Bowl or the Olympiad, all the students' hard work is paid off, and Lexington will be well represented.
My name is Stephanie Kozak, and I am a 6th grade science teacher at Clark Middle School. 3 years ago, a former student of mine who was in high school reached out and asked if they wanted to start a Science Olympiad team at Clark. I came on board. I was so excited about the competitive yet teamwork nature of Science Olympiad. There's 23 events in which each student is paired up with a particular partner, and it's all about communication, partnership, and working together to ultimately take the test or the engineering event.
Like first place you get 1 point, second place you get 2 points. You want to get the least amount of points.
Yeah.
And then
Like golf.
whoever has the least amount of points wins.
It's like golf.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
golf.
There's 23 different events ranging from engineering builds, which include flight, storm the castle, which is like a trajectory event. Then there are written events, which is disease detective, so students learn about different diseases. Crime Busters, which is a lab event, so they test different powders. And National Science Olympiad actually shifts different events around each year, so they're not all the same.
You choose which ones you are interested in and you try out for those things, then coaches will assign you different things.
I do 2 build events. One is flight, which is you just build an airplane and it has to be powered by rubber material. And then the second one, same thing with a car. So you have to build a car.
I do all written events. I do rocks and minerals, which is just like the name says, and then I do meteorology, and then I also do Road Scholar, and it's pretty much about like maps.
So we start out with about 80 kids at this point, and then we whittle it down to 3 teams that are going to compete, and then 1 alternate team that's at the ready.
So it's 2 teams facing off. Teams of 5, but only 4 can compete at each one. And for the round, you have a moderator reading questions, and the kids just race to be the first ones to buzz in correctly.
Buzzers, they like buzzers.
Yeah, and so it's very fast-paced, high energy, high intensity, and it's usually, it starts off as a round robin, and then you go into double elimination rounds and a final championship. So it's kind of like March Madness, all in one really long day of science competition.
There were a couple parents, the Jalil family of Lexington. They knew about the competition, got people together, their kids were involved in it, and then they really wanted the school involvement. I think Anna Monaco was our principal at the time, and they approached her and they said, can the school sponsor a team? Then Miss Monaco was asking for volunteers. And I was fairly new at the school, and I said, oh, this sounds really interesting, I will do it. And a lot of my colleagues were saying, you don't know what you're getting yourself into.
I feel like that origin story is part of the magic of why it works here, because it started with the community.
Exactly.
And it still has just community support.
Alright, so in the science ball team, we studied like 5 branches of science, which is biology, ESS, physics, chem, and math. And we all study textbooks or however we study, and we go to competitions where we answer questions faster, or we try to answer faster than the other teams and try to get the most points. In the finals, I would think would be the most interesting match, and in that match we beat Diamond.
We lost against Diamond once in the double elimination. So in the finals we had to win twice against them, so we could actually win.
We feel really excited here about the teams, and it's just a great sign for us that students are motivated, they care about challenging themselves. We have a school community, both with staff and families, who value these sort of experiences, and so for me it's a sign of a healthy school, and I'm really proud of the school community we have here.
The 27th Annual Regional High School Art Exhibit is currently on display at LexArt. Teachers from area schools choose student works for the exhibit. All proceeds from gallery sales and donations go towards scholarships for graduating seniors who are pursuing careers in the arts. Last year, LexArt awarded $6,000 in scholarships to 5 students. They're hoping to earn even more scholarship money this year. Here's a tour of the exhibit.
On March 4th, LexArt opened its doors to students in the surrounding areas for their annual regional high school exhibit. Featuring the works of students from multiple high schools, this exhibit showcases the creativity and innovation of area students in high school art programs, and helps raise funds for their high school scholarship programs. I caught up with Matthew Siegel, Executive Director of LexArt, and captured his enthusiasm for the exhibit.
I'm Matthew Siegel. I'm the Executive Director and the President of the Lexington Arts and Crafts Society.
Well, we've been having work of area high schoolers since the 1950s. In the mid-90s, we started having it every year. This year, the exhibit includes students from Lexington High School, Minuteman Vocational School here in Lexington, Winchester High, Bedford, Burlington, and Waltham High School. The exhibit includes a wide variety of material, painting and drawing, photography, digital art, computer art, ceramics, there's sculpture. It's a broad range. I think the exhibit is a wonderful way to offer recognition and validation to the young people in the area, to be able to have a program and an event where students can get together with other students from area schools, where the instructors can get together. So often I hear from the instructors it's the only time of year that they see one another. For the parents of the kids to see their work exhibited and to be able to share in the event with their students and to be able to show it off to other people in town and in the surrounding area is a wonderful thing to do.
So whether you like paintings, photography, ceramics, digital, or anything abstract, this exhibit has something for you. The annual Regional High School exhibit is currently running from March 4th to April 2nd, so head over to LexArt and support the local artists. Terry Samaras at LexArt, back to you in studio, Rick.
It was a big year for Minuteman sports. Both the LHS boys and girls basketball teams made it to the playoffs. After going 15-8 in their regular season, the boys were matched up for an away game against the Weymouth Wildcats. The girls, after a 16-4 season, had to defend home turf against the Reading Rockets. Brian Doda has the exciting breakdown.
Starting with the boys in Weymouth, the Wildcats were able to establish an early lead in the first quarter through their strong defense and offensive rebounding. The Minutemen tried to roar back in the second, scoring 21 points in the quarter. After a back-and-forth start to the third, the Wildcats came alive, expanding their lead to 22 points. After a hard-fought fourth quarter, the Minutemen boys came up short, losing 81-58. Back at home, the girls were set off to face against the Reading Rockets, and this game was an incredible back and forth. The pace of this game was breakneck from the tip.
Key plays for Reading last time, and we're going to see if they can deliver again today, try and get Reading the W, as well as Lexington.
Right out of the gate, it's Anunya knocking down the jumper.
Lexington established their presence early with a big block out of Riley Hamilton. Maddie Parks driving through defenders. And Stella Crinity sinking an open look for three.
Bingo!
But the Rockets were determined to keep the pace, going shot for shot with them in the second quarter.
Oh my goodness!
Brooke Polpe led the charge for the Reading Rockets in the third, dropping back-to-back three-pointers to start the quarter. She had a total of 33 points on the night. With Reading leading by 4 going into the fourth quarter, Maddie Parks gives the Minutemen a spark off of a fast break into a corner three. Gloria Doyle ties the game off of an inbounds drive with just over 3 minutes left in regulation.
Tie game!
Brooke Polpe, after making 2 free throws to make it a 1-point game, then puts Reading back on top with a massive fast break. Maddie Parks responds with a three-pointer. Lexington leads by 2 with 43 seconds on the clock. Who else do the Rockets look for other than Brooke Polpe? Tie game. With 16 seconds on the clock, the Minutemen coming out of a timeout looking for a play, but Reading's defense holds.
And we are going to overtime.
Wow.
With a fresh 4 minutes on the clock, the Minutemen and the Rockets are going shot for shot, blow for blow until the very end.
He's going to take it. Deep two. And it goes.
She's cooking. She's cooking.
With 8 seconds left, Reading on the free throw line, they missed the first shot but made the second to make it a 2-point game. Lexington inbounds looking for an open shooter, but the shot does not fall and the Reading Rockets take the win over Lexington 65-63. Our commentators, Austin Reich and Duncan Maloney, were able to catch up with Coach Solly, who was very optimistic even after a hard-fought game.
The whole team shot the three ball really, really well, and they take a lot of them, as you saw in the other game. The other 2 times we played them, they shot it okay, but it was exceptional today, and I think she and that was probably the difference. Yeah, I think it's bright. I told the girls, you know, obviously Parks graduates, but you want to be in an environment like this. This gym is so awesome when you have this many students and fans and people that passionate. I'm excited. I think the future's bright. I think the girls can kind of rally next year and build on this momentum and hopefully be in a position to have a game in an environment like this again.
To watch the full game and interview with the coach, you can find them both on LexMedia.org on demand. This has been Brian Doda for LexLocal.
Stay with us. We'll introduce a few new businesses in Lexington. We'll be right back. The biotech business continues to grow in Lexington with a ribbon-cutting ceremony and grand opening of New Shen Therapeutics. New Shen added nearly 10,000 square feet of lab space and planned to hire 20 to 30 people locally. Terry Samaras was on hand for the ceremonies.
February 27th, New Shen Therapeutics hosted its grand opening right here in Lexington. New Shen Therapeutics is a biotech company focusing on innovative drug research and development to address disorders to the central nervous system. I spoke with the company to gauge their excitement about breaking new ground and why they chose Lexington as their new headquarters.
My name is Zhong Shen. I'm the founder and the CEO of New Shen Therapeutics. This is a company focusing on the neurological and psychiatric disease, new drug treatment development. Lexington, Boston, we are focusing on the AAV gene-based therapy for neurodegenerative diseases. This is the home of many biotechs, which is really working hard to push the boundaries for innovation. I cannot be happier with the location, the easy access to the other side of Boston, and easy access to other companies which have shared similar visions.
Doing business always have 3 rights. You need to have a right team. I believe now we build up a great team here, and then it's the right time. I think the biotech, particularly gene therapeutics now, is really a prime time and right place. And Lexington is a part of this Boston Bio Valley. Lexington has a great site, close to Cambridge, close to Boston, but at the same time probably more attractive. And environment is very good.
We are lucky to have a company coming to Lexington and bringing in treatments and therapies for mental disorder. I'm excited for New Shen to actually have selected Lexington as their next headquarters, especially for gene therapy and CNS therapy.
The opening ceremony was attended by New Shen's executives and scientists in Boston, scientific advisors, representatives from the biopharmaceutical industry, and local authorities. New Shen Therapeutics' Boston R&D Center will be led by a team of professionals in the AAV-based gene therapy field and will form an open alliance with academia and industry partners. This collaboration will empower the ecosystem to share knowledge and build innovative solutions for CNS disorders. Good luck to New Shen and welcome to Lexington.
From technology to tea, Julie Minuteman profiles another new addition to Lexington.
Do you love a warm cup of tea? And have you ever wanted to try one of those traditional English tea services? Well, look no further than Vintage Tea and Cake Company in Lexington, Massachusetts.
Adele Dunnigan was inspired by her 10 years living in England, and she wanted to bring afternoon tea to Lexington.
So we offer a traditional afternoon tea menu. It consists of a selection of seasonal patisseries, a selection of little finger sandwiches, including our classic cucumber, which you have at most afternoon teas. At the moment, we're also doing a delicious tuna salad. We have an English cheddar and chive, which is really popular in England, and then a prosciutto, as well as some vegetarian options too. We are doing a selection of patisseries that include dark chocolate salted caramel tarts, scones with strawberry jam and clotted cream, lemon curd cream puffs, a pistachio French macaroon, and a raspberry almond financier. We like to switch up our menu, play around with things every couple of months, but we also want to keep some of the popular items on the menu so people come back for them.
And let's not forget about the tea.
So we have a great menu of teas. We have our classic blacks that you can find in most places, but we also have some fun flavors like ginger peach cinnamon, orange cinnamon spice, vanilla chai. One of our real popular flavors at the moment is our Buckingham Palace garden tea, which the Queen of England used to serve every year at her spring garden party. We use Tea Guys, which is a local Massachusetts wholesaler, but also get some of our other flavors from the English tea store.
And take my word for it, the food and the tea are delicious. I'm having the Queen's tea with cucumber and cream cheese sandwiches.
What a nice way to spend the afternoon. I want to thank all of you for spending some time with us today. Thank you for all of us here at LexLocal. I'm Rick Dorrington.